And we thank you for your attendance today. And we're going to get right to our first speaker because he's a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and with a minor in Computer Sciences. He's the president of Oneness Incorporated, and they're a company specializing in sound therapy, studying and analyzing its effects and impact on the human body. He's been doing that for about 2 years now, and is here to explain the detail, the power of sound therapy and bioresonance. Would like to add real quickly, like to put his 800 number out there for you people, and I'm sure Dan will repeat it again at the end of his presentation, but that number is 1-800-734-3588. And with that, I'd like to bring to you this morning Mr. Dan Kunkel. Thank you.
Great, thanks for coming, and again, I'm sorry about the delay. So what we have and what we're doing here is looking at frequencies. Last night, Bob was talking. Bob's a naturopathic doctor or nutrition doctor at the or graduated from the University of Bastyr in Washington, who's got some 20 years of experience doing this stuff, 15 to 20 years. Last night in his talk, he was talking about how everything has a frequency. And he works in the vitamin and nutrient industry, and even he realizes that frequency is at the base of everything that we know. Everything vibrates. This microphone, this table, this projector, the tip of my fingertip. Well, what we're doing at Oneness Incorporated is studying that to see if we can figure out how to apply that for the next millennium of therapy and for, kind of for the benefit of mankind and healing. I don't think, and I think many of you will agree with me, that our allopathic system right now is working to the degree that it could. And in fact, there seems to be a need to kind of match up and pull everything together. That's part of why I called the company Oneness, because I'm trying to bring everything I can from every different aspect or area of science that will help us with healing or with, kind of body and body balance. So in short, what we do is there's two sides to it. One side is we look at the holographic voice. When I talk, you can tell a lot more about me just by my voice, regardless of what I'm saying, even though body language is a big factor as well. Well, what we're doing, one side of what we're doing, is to actually use the computer to analyze the voice signal. We think, and we've got some substantial evidence, but it's just case-by-case studies, that show that there are a lot more information that we can get about nutrients, vitamins, frequencies. Remember, everything's a frequency, just by recording the voice and analyzing it with the computer. So what I've done is developed a software package that does that and helps us track the information so that we can provide the research, the results, the proof that this works and show how it works and learn how it works. There's pieces and parts of it that we still don't know. That's part of why we're doing this, and this is kind of the breaking edge research, breaking edge in new technology. At the same time, there's information that's been researched before in this that we know or other people know, but it hasn't come back in, and that's part of what I'm trying to do is to bring everything back together. The last piece, of course, is we could sure use money. I think everyone can use money, and there's an awful lot of research money out there, but so far we haven't gotten any money to do this research. The second half of what Oneness Incorporated does is actually uses this tone box right here. Okay. So this is a little box. What it does is play back frequencies to the person. Turns out that just listening to these frequencies can have profound effects on people. A quick example, or a few quick examples. One of the best things, or one of the great things that this does, is help people relax. Well, when you're relaxed, healing is allowed to take place. When you're all tense and stressed like I am right now, you can hear it in my voice, healing can't take place. Your body already knows how to heal once it can relax. The tone box helps relax. It also is very useful with insomniacs. I saw one insomniac earlier this year or last year. And I saw her on a Friday. Next Wednesday, I talked to her, and I'm like, well, how's it going with the sounds? She mentioned, oh, I slept till 10:45 the day before. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you live in the city, right? Yeah. Well, there's something to this. It seems to work. It seems to kind of affect the brain waves and help with relaxation. Another client or another practitioner was seeing his wife. And what happened is his wife came in with some abdominal pains. Well, they looked through and they kind of figured out somewhat intuitively what sound they needed. They put it onto this, and like in minutes, the abdominal pains disappeared. The same thing can happen with back pain, with other stuff. But we don't know that it can happen. We're not sure. We can't say that we've got a cure for any of this stuff. We just have seen it happen in specific cases. Can we make it happen 100% of the time? Not yet. We're still in the research phase. This is still very up and down. One thing I need to add real quick is please jump in with questions as they occur to you, because I'm going to run out of things to talk about in about 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Do your voice frequencies change from moment to moment? Like sometimes you've got symptoms, sometimes you haven't?
Okay, the question is, do the voice frequencies change? Yes, they do. That actually gets me on to something big that I wanted to share today to get this into the public domain. So, do voice frequencies change from moment to moment? Yes. Even with the computer analysis, we'll do one. By the time we can do another, we can see significant changes. I actually have a new piece of research that I'm doing, and this is what I want to put it into the public domain so that everyone will have access to it. And everyone who's been doing this work, they've been recording people talking. Well, when you talk, you only get the information about what they're saying and the emotional content of that. Well, the new piece of research, or the new kind of technique that I'm suggesting, is to have people make a sound somewhat like this, kind of going, ooh. Okay, and you can hear how much sound I can make at the different levels. Well, by doing this and making a recording of that, we're actually really testing the body to see what frequencies I can make. Dr. Tomatis did some research way back when. He's one of the early people that have been working with sounds. And he had a theory that he had proven to himself that you can only make sounds that you can hear. Okay? So as I'm trying to make these sounds, I skip by the sounds I can't hear. I skip by the sounds that I have, quote, missing in my voice. So as I do that test that I just did, I actually get, or should get, a real picture of what's going on in my voice. So this could be the piece of information that really turns this industry around. I've actually been holding it back from sharing it with too many people because I wanted to make sure to get it into the public domain before someone else could copyright it or patent it. So I believe that this will affect my means today. Question, sir?
The frequencies you use to clear up that abdominal pain or whatever, are they unique to the person?
They sometimes are, but we don't believe so. I think we've found that a lot of the frequencies seem to correlate from person to person. We have frequencies for just about everything that we can think of under the sun at this point, and we've been putting together a database of those frequencies. I'll show you that to you in the software in a minute. And what we've found is that the frequencies are very similar from person to person. We have frequencies for muscles, and we found that people who have real tense muscles, well, we can play it and make the muscle get more tense, or we can play its inverse or antagonist. Those are two different things. I'll quickly show you what those are later.
The reason I asked that, I wondered if you could take their voice frequency and have the computer decide what frequencies to generate to fix whatever's wrong with them without you actually knowing what's wrong.
Okay, so the question is, can we get it to where the computer just does everything and we don't have to have any human interaction? Yeah, there is a chance, and that perhaps is where we're going. At this stage, we still don't know enough to really have it where we know that we would be doing good in every case. We still want to have the practitioner in the loop because they can kind of see the client, see what's happening, and bounce off of, use the information, the additional information that they have in relating to the client and making sure that they get the sounds they need. Okay, let's go to this gentleman here.
Have you done any research into different forms of music and what effect that has?
I haven't done any research. There's a lot of research out there. Okay, thanks for reminding me. So have I done any research on the effects of music? No, I haven't. There's a lot of research that's already been done. There's a few, let's see if I can remember all three of them, basic tenets that come back. One is that very rhythmic music invigorates. Non-rhythmic music kind of relaxes. That's why you have the new agey music that's all, la-di-da, and you can't get into a rhythm. That's why marching music, which is rhythmic, really kind of gets you going and pumping. Dancing is the same, or dancing music. Loud music kind of aggravates. Soft music kind of soothes. And there's a third one, and it escapes me right now, sorry, but they've done research into that. There's a ton out there. I don't see the need to do the same thing over again. Okay, sir, back.
In several spiritual traditions, there is the concept of finding your voice, your power voice, in which I assume is having all the frequency domains demonstrated in your voice. Is that kind of the goal of this, is to actually retrain the person to encapsulate those frequencies?
Okay, so the question is, it's kind of a comment, and I'll expand upon it. In several spiritual studies, one of the goals is to actually expand the voice into the power voice, or a voice that's balanced. That turns out to be exactly what we're doing. What I'm going to do is quick switch over to the computer for a second here, if we can do that and get the screen on. And I'll give you a demonstration or show you what that looks like in the software that I've developed. Okay, down here, we'll blow this up so it's easier to see. This here is a picture of someone's voice that we've taken and analyzed with the computer. What we would like to see, from what your question was, is we would like to see energy all the way around evenly around the circle, to see yellow all the way around. That would be, quote, our perfect definition, or kind of piece of how we'd like the energy to be.
Can you explain what the axes are on the circles?
Sure. This is a very interesting chart and stuff, and we'll go, let me just jump into it. What we have is, once around the circle is an octave. It's broken up into 12 bars or spots here. Each spot represents a note on the piano keyboard. This first one here is the note of C. This next one is C sharp. This next one is D, D sharp. That continues all the way around to this top one, or this one over here, is actually the note of B on the piano keyboard. Now, everyone, I would imagine, knows that a piano keyboard has different octaves or different sets of 12 keys. Well, what I've done in this software is to put them all kind of concentric, so that we have, like, mid C is, I can't quite see which one it is, but it's one of these. We'll say that it's this one here in the center. The next octave up would be C plus 1, it's this next circle around. The next octave up would be C plus 2. Okay? These are the different this corresponds to the different keys on the piano keyboard. Simultaneously, I'll kind of throw in something that we've found, and I don't want to say that I believe in it, or I don't, and don't want to have you have to say it either. But we've found that this also correlates to astrology. And we've seen just some miraculous pieces of information come with this, where that the note of C happens to have a color red, happens to associate with Aries. And this kind of comes back from astrology from years and years ago. I can't even imagine, or I haven't been able to find a source, but I'm sure it would be back in the beginning of astrology. So you have that piece. If we can go back to the computer, I'll kind of show you some of the other features of the software. One of the things that the software has, I'll back up for a second. First, what the software does is it tracks clients, and you do that tracking here in this window. You can come in, and each time you come in to see a new visit, or the client comes in to see a new client, you'll put in new client, which is here, new visit, and you can come in and do a recording. I want to just jump in quickly and show you that in the recording sequence, I'm just going to do one thing here. In the recording sequence, we're looking for holographic information from the voice. The voice contains far more information. Well, there's also been research done by David John Oates into reverse speech. Okay, reverse speech is where you actually talk in reverse, or your unconscious mind inserts messages in reverse on top of what you're saying forward. Well, one of the things that we're doing here, remember I'm talking about bringing everything that I can in, well, this software supports reverse speech when you make a recording. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that that was there. One of the other products that we provide at Oneness Incorporated is these recorders that are available that actually you can use to play back speech both forward and backward. I imagine most everyone here has heard of Art Bell and David John Oates, and so these recorders are available for less than he sells them, as I recall. So those are $199.95. Let's see. So to continue, once we take the recording, we can look at this overview plot, which is again kind of the notes of the voice, sort of broken up into the piano's keys of the keyboard. I mentioned before that we have an astrology chart. That's not it. I think it's okay. An astrology chart that here maps directly onto the voice print that we were looking at. So what we commonly see, it's not as common as I'd like, but we'll find out when we do some more research and correlate all of our results. What we commonly see is that this symbol here is for the sun. And we usually find that a lot of people have a lot of energy, either in that note there, in this case G, or in the note directly opposite, in this case C sharp. Now what we found in music, the note directly opposite is called a tritone. Turns out that the church banned the use of the interval tritone, kind of that using in music the note and the note that's opposite, back in the 1,000 years ago or so. What they said at the time was that it was the devil's interval. What we find is that it's one of the most incredibly powerful healing techniques in using sound therapy. To use this sound that's opposite of the one or the inverse sound. If I go back here to this chart here, can we see like a high point here. Can you imagine? Notice that it happens to fit right in a little low there. If with this person, they have something going on at this frequency here, we want to balance it out. What sound do we normally use to balance it out? We use the inverse, which is directly opposite on this wheel. Okay, makes a lot of sense, and it's really helped. The church didn't like it. Wonder why. Okay, so next, one of the kind of useful pieces here, and the software is designed to help people who are getting started in this business to see clients. Well, one of the things that happens is these muscles come up. But I have no idea where most muscles are, and yet here it is, this muscle frequency coming up, and you're like, well, gee, do you have a little pain right here or something like that? Well, we use this muscle locator, which actually lets us go in and find the location of different muscles. It's hard to read here. I can type in something. I think there's like the gluteus maximus, if I'm not mistaken. And here it shows you where the muscle is. Now, there's something in kinesiology called an antagonist muscle. Okay, those are muscles that kind of fight back and forth amongst themselves. When one muscle is strong, the other muscle will be weak. Well, the software tracks the antagonist muscle in most cases. And here all I do is click on this antagonist button and it shows me what the antagonist muscle is. So here's information that you can get when you have the software that's at the tip of your fingertips. And you don't need to memorize all this stuff. You don't need to know all this information. The next piece that's even more powerful is this nutritional database that's correlated to the sounds. As you recall at the beginning, I talked about everything has a sound. Or we think most everything has a sound. Well, what we've done here is put in an incredible amount of time and effort to track all of this information of what the sounds are for different things. I just recently got from a Chinese source the frequencies for the meridians. As soon as I get the chance, I'll be typing those in so that those will be in the software. what this has is this database contains muscles, amino acids, drugs, chemicals, cell salts, just about everything that you can think of. But that's not all the software does. It actually tracks the relationships between that and conditions, so that you don't have to have the knowledge of Bob last night to know about heart conditions. You can actually just come in to this database, type in something like heart conditions. Okay, and what the software does is it pulls up a long list over here of different substances that relate to heart conditions. So this way you kind of get the back and forth relationship. It also down here talks about them, and if you click on one of these, it actually shows you what the relationship is. What I'd like to do is kind of take a little sidetrack at this point and show you a computer-based training system that we've put together to make learning to use the system easier. I'm jumping around a little bit, but it's just the way it works. What we've done is we've had this kind of great system put together, and we found that it takes a lot of time to teach everyone how to use it. And we've got people who are trying to use this all around the world, in just about every country except for South America at this point. Well, rather than having to have everyone fly in for training and all the expense and time and everything, we put a computerized tutor together that I'll demonstrate for you now that actually makes it so you can purchase the software and learn how to use it at your own time, or in your own time, at home on the computer. All you need is Windows 95 or better with a CD-ROM. So go back to the computer, please. Okay. So I'll just kind of run through here and see if we can hear this.
By now you know that everything vibrates and has its own frequency. And because of that, it's possible to correlate the energy or lack of energy in a voice print with nutrition and emotions.
Okay. Can you turn up the volume
The
on the
database lists over 20,000 drug names,
on the
chemicals,
other
elements,
microphone?
muscles, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and other substances. But it's not simply a listing with definitions. For that, you could go to the library. The beauty of the database is that it allows you to see relationships, and seeing relationships is the heart of becoming a nutritional detective and researcher. There are two main windows in the database viewer, one called Substance and the other called Condition. You enter the name of a substance you're interested in this box, and you enter the name of a condition in this other box. When you enter either a substance or a condition, there are 4 additional windows that give you further information, and more importantly, show you relationships. Because the database is actually 4 data systems in one, the 4 windows usually remain invisible until needed. Let's see how this works. Suppose I'd like to know about calcium. Since calcium is a substance, I type it in the substance box, and as I type, the window below it provides me a choice of substances that begin with the letters I'm typing. Since I'm interested in the element of calcium, I'll click on that, and the database automatically enters the frequency of calcium in its frequency box. It also lists the inverse frequency of calcium in the box to the right. If you looked at the octave display, you would see it automatically insert a solid white line on the frequency of calcium and a dotted white line on its inverse frequency. At a view of 40%, you might suspect that this voice chart lacks a lot of the vibrational energy of calcium. Looking back at the database viewer, we can see that because we entered something in the substance box and clicked on it from the list below, a window appears on the bottom left, defining what we clicked on. At the same time, a list appears under the word condition. Anything with an X is a condition that has some kind of relationship to calcium. The definition box for calcium on the bottom left is small, so to read what's in the entire window, you can click on it once with your left mouse button. You can then use the scroll bars to read all the information about calcium. You can also maximize or enlarge the whole database screen with the Maximize button, if you prefer. Clicking with the left mouse button on the same information screen reduces the screen to its original size. To review, when you enter a substance name in the substance box, information on that substance appears in the lower left window. Clicking once on that window will enlarge it, and you can scroll down to see the rest of the information. Simultaneously, any conditions related to that substance will appear with an X in the right window, under Conditions. You will also see the frequency of that substance and the frequency of its inverse in the frequency boxes.
Okay, so that's a pretty good demonstration of the training system that we've put together. Can you see that since we have this going through the whole software system and kind of walking you through step by step, by the time you're finished with it, you've got a pretty good idea of how to use the software and where to go from here with doing your own research, your own trials. You're just purchasing this doesn't get you to the point where you're ready to see practitioners. You still need to come in. We need to work with you one-on-one and do, kind of training. But it does get you going to do research, and if, depending upon the direction you want to go with it, you can just run with just the software and the training package. We've put a ton of effort into making this available, and so I hope it's going to make it or be useful for everyone who needs that. Question?
I'm starting to see a little bit of connection here between your program and maybe the right technology and how that could connect.
Okay, the question is, or comment is that he's seeing a relationship between the technology that we're using and the Rife. I agree. There's a connection between that. There's a connection actually with the frequencies, with almost everything that everyone does. It turns out that frequencies and the work that we're doing is at the base level of matter, it would seem. I haven't figured out what this is, and I've only done a little bit of research with this. But I'm almost sure that we're going to find some sort of relationship similar in vein to the E=mc² relationship that Einstein came up with, that will actually talk about and express the relationship between matter and frequency. We've got matter to energy with E=mc², and somehow I know that energy and frequency relate. I just haven't seen how it works yet and haven't really run across that. Question?
You've already mentioned reverse speech.
Mm-hmm.
My question is twofold. What does it look like when you're seeing a reverse on your little graph? And then can you also detect the emotional basis of a disease?
Let's see. So the question's about reverse speech and looking for the emotional basis. I'll just kind of tell you what I can about this, and hopefully it will answer your question. In general, we have definitely found emotional bases for disease in kind of an ad lib type way. There's one gentleman that was coming in for a voice print, and he was having major hip trouble. Well, suddenly, in his reversal, he talked about being shot in the hip with an arrow. And I don't remember what the exact reversal was, but it just astounded me to hear this reversal. And it turns out that there was part of his, there's different definitions that we can give. The definition I'll give is that there was part of his subconscious that was living with the memory or with the image of having an arrow in his hip. Well, no kidding, his body is going to create trouble with his hip. So part of the healing for him was, just even hearing the reversal can be incredibly therapeutic. David John Oates has been doing research in this, and I don't know.
So your software actually came up with the reversal?
The software actually came up with the reversal in that case. Yeah, it's really incredible software. I mean, and then the database piece, which I think you guys now have an idea of what's there, is absolutely, absolutely phenomenal. And it itself is worth more than what we're charging for the whole software package at this stage, and I think we'll be releasing it as a separate product here soon when we get things rolling.
What about upgrades? Are you going to split people up and make them go to 2 different softwares, or will you honor the first ones?
We'll continue to honor the first ones. The nutritional database, of course, will be getting upgrades. That way everyone doesn't need to spend the time that Bob of last night spends, or Dr. Bob spends, researching, reading all these latest articles. We'll have a couple of students or whoever, reading the articles, typing the information into the database. You just get the upgrade. You don't need to know what's all in there until you suddenly have a client in front of you with with that issue, with that health condition. Suddenly they come in with a health condition for angina. You type in angina, and it actually brings up all the relationships and the information you need to have a working knowledge of where you should go with this. That's part of the beauty of the database in that it pulling together the relationships. And that piece in itself, for anyone who's interested in nutrition, is just absolutely phenomenal and incredibly valuable. Okay, sir. Turns out that it really doesn't. We've been doing just a little bit of research, and okay, thank you. Thanks so much. So the question was, how does hearing impairment factor into this? The answer again is it doesn't seem to. Turns out we've been doing a little bit of research, and with the tone box here, you don't even necessarily have to have the tone box on your ears. I have experience with one woman who is having a hip replacement surgery and just going through incredible pain. Well, one of my partners programmed up the tone box with some frequencies that she needed, actually put the headphones around her hips, and suddenly the pain was gone. Or maybe not suddenly, but soon enough. And it's incredible. It truly is, I'll throw in the word miraculous at times. It's just we don't have it repeatable. And at this stage, it is, we can't guarantee, we don't have it where every person that comes in, we can see miraculous results. And nor should we. I think the healing belongs and is the responsibility of the person. We just want to give the option to the people. But I'm an engineer and I want things digital. I do computers. Ones and zeros work for me. I want, okay, we know what to do this, bingo, you get this result. We like that. So what I've got here is some tones that you can listen to from the tone box. What we've found is that by playing these sounds, we actually use frequencies that are down at the brainwave level. What that means is that you hear sounds that then can directly affect the brainwaves. A way of describing the work that we do, and we're not positive, we don't have proof, but sure we've got proof that pieces of it work, is that we're able to tell what's going on with your kind of balance and brainwave balance by looking at the voice print, using the computer to analyze the data. Then we can turn around, play these low frequency sounds that are actually at frequencies that your brain operates at, between 16 and 32 hertz, and we then directly affect the brainwaves. What this does is rebalance the person. That just seems to have, in some cases, and it's on an individual by individual basis, rebalancing their brainwaves seems to help with pain, seems to help with health conditions. We've got experience, we've got case studies, we've got testimonials. We don't have it working in every case. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. There's a lot of research. But this is incredible, incredible stuff, and I think it's going to just be the healing modality of the next millennium. You can read that in all sorts of channel books or all sorts of different information. That sound, light, color is going to be this. Speaking of color, colors are frequencies as well. I talked a little bit about C being red, being the frequencies near 256 or 260 hertz. Well, we relate those to color so that you can use that information. Sure. Okay, so let's get back to the computer screen here in a minute. What I'd like to do, here we go. So here's the astrology chart, and here's the colors. Okay, Leo is, I think it's this one here. It's just before Virgo? Yeah, so it's yellow in this case. It also is sometimes associated with its inverse color. It depends on whether you like to go with pigment colors or the light colors. Turns out that some people, or the standard is to go with, I think, the pigment colors, which is what you see here. When you see it in the light form, you often want to use the inverse or the color that's opposite. We're doing research. We don't have everything quite figured out. The color scheme seems to be changing, but we're working with it. We know that there's a relationship.
Energy is in the yellow and the inverse.
Okay. So what we would do to see how much energy someone has in those frequencies is just come down here and look at those same spots on this graph here. In this case, here's Leo, where the mouse is, and here's the inverse, and you can see that on one level, they have a lot of energy on the inverse. They don't have much energy on any level that we're displaying at this point in Leo. They have some little small spikes and stuff, so they have a few things, but in general.
So how would you tune your resonance box there
Okay,
to
in
complement that and restore their energy?
In this case, what we would probably do is look at these few peaks that they do have in Leo and give the inverse, which I'll click here. And you can't quite see it on this screen, but there's a white line here on the frequency that I clicked on. There's a dashed line here. Now, one of the things that I can do is come into the database window, and suddenly it looked up in the computer the frequency that I clicked on. That way you can just jump around in the software, and the software works for you, helping you to do your research, helping you to follow your fingertips around nutritional data, around the frequencies, in order to find out what will probably work best for the client. Let's get the gentleman in the back.
Wouldn't it be easy to just take and have the inverse of the frequency that somebody speaks, and then you take the inverse, you take everything that's missing, and make them a tape, and then they don't have to go take vitamins, pills, or drugs?
Okay, so there's actually a few things in that. So the question is, wouldn't it be easy to just have the computer give the inverse? Yes, it would be easy. Would it be right? At this point, I don't believe it is. We don't know enough to know. Perhaps it would. At this stage, I still want to go through a practitioner because we don't know enough to know. I need them to kind of get in the middle and watch what's happening, relate to it, do the research so that we learn from the experience. You know, we're not at that stage yet. We're still crawling at this stage in this work. We may get to a kind of computer piece like that at some point. Okay, gentleman in the back. Okay, no, it turns out that we don't use the computer itself to generate the tones. Okay, thanks. Does the computer itself generate the tones? No, we don't use the computer itself to generate the tones. We use this device called a tone box. What happens is I believe that we need to be very accurate in the frequencies that we're delivering. There was some research I heard about, preliminary research, that you needed an accuracy of 1 to 2 thousandths of a hertz in this range of 16 to 32 hertz in order to really be accurate and repeatable. I haven't been able to do the money, or I don't have the money to be able to do the research and prove that if that's necessary. I just went the step and said, okay, well, I'm going to assume that it is. I'm making this tone box. I'll make it accurate to better than 1/1000th of a hertz. And then it doesn't matter. If we're not, we'll be more accurate. End of question. What I'd like to do at this point is hand this tone box around so that you can get a chance to listen to these sounds. They're just incredible. I was speaking a few weeks ago, actually in Australia, where we're setting up a whole diploma course to do this. And while I was there, about 2 o'clock or so, everyone would get tired. Well, I did this by accident, where I'd hand around this tone box, and suddenly the energy would pick up and we'd get going. Well, I did this twice. I didn't notice a thing. I didn't really connect it. One of the students called me the next day, or during the next week, and they're like, "Oh, by the way, Dan, did you notice how you hand around this tone box with the frequency of oxygen?" And suddenly we were just lagging, and kind of, our heads were drooping, our eyes were drooping. Suddenly we were like all bouncy and ready to go again. There might be a connection there, Dan. I'm like, you're right. Didn't notice. So I'll just hand this around for a second and let people kind of experience the sounds for themselves. Okay.
Can you put it up to the microphone?
It ends up being, the question is, can I put it up to the microphone? No, I can't. It ends up being a really low frequency, and you can't hear it really through televisions or anything like that. It just gets cut off. Most speakers can't replace it. What you do to do this is just hit the button, and you'll hear the tone box turn on. You can hit it again, and you'll be able to listen to different forms of sound. One of the things that the tone box has in it is the ability to do phasing in multiple tones simultaneously. And what we've done is you can actually hear it make different types of tones. In every case, we're very close to the tone of oxygen. First, I'll start in the tone box with a nice level tone that's just kind of a hum in both ears. Then I set it up so that the tone actually turns on and off once a second. The third tone that's in the tone box is one where the tone actually revolves, or seems to revolve inside your head. It kind of switches from side to side, going back and forth. And it's just incredible. in balancing the energies, or balancing and getting the brain to communicate between the two hemispheres. It's just a fabulous piece. We're doing all sorts of research and neat stuff with it, but we haven't been able to collate the results yet. Okay, question in the back with a hat. Actually, the tone box can produce up to 4 tones at any one time, 2 frequencies on one ear, 2 on the other, and it has the ability to completely control the phasing for people who know what that is. That's like you can have the tones go together, or you can have one go opposite, or you can have one just lead the other in phasing. And that has to do with kind of frequencies and phasing. Most scientists will know what I'm talking about. It is, yes, it is a stereo system. Yes, sir.
Excuse me if this might be redundant, but how is it actually done? Is the brain actually getting the waves? Is it going through the auditory canal, through the inner ear and all of this kind of thing? Or how is it actually affecting?
I can't say that I know the answer to that question. How is the sounds affecting the brainwaves? How is it affecting?
You don't know whether or not this will be effective with somebody with hearing impairment?
Well, we have found it to be effective. I mean, remember there's the case of we put this around someone's hip, and it was effective. So we know that it kind of affects the energy. Here's a point where I'll jump in. You know, there's just so many pieces to this. One piece is that the headphones actually contain contain magnets in them. And of course, we're oscillating and making an electromagnet out of the headphones. That's part of what they are and how they work. So suddenly we're not just doing magnet therapy, we're doing frequency magnet therapy in the sound work that we're working with. The second little comment I have to make about this is that from what I heard, some research I saw, the skin is made up, kind of in the development of a baby. The skin and the ear are made up of the same kind of stuff. And so it's been proposed that the skin is a type of hearing device. That kind of jumps into a little bit of what, let's see, the neurophone by Dr. Flanagan. Yeah, and that he's done some work on that. The body is far more complex than we think it is, at least from what I can tell. And then it may actually turn that on another level. The body is far more simple than we think it is. But there's other stuff going on. No, I don't think you need to have hearing to receive the benefits of this therapy. Okay, in the back, sir.
Have you had any collaboration with the Monroe Institute and their hemisync process?
I haven't had any collaboration. Okay, have I done any work with Monroe or any collaboration with the Monroe Institute? I have not done any collaboration with them. We're working on very much the same type of stuff. One of the research studies that they did at Monroe, or that someone did using some of the Monroe stuff, that's one of the best research studies that I can quote at this stage, is they took a bunch of alcoholics, I believe in the Minnesota area, and they had 3 groups, a control group, one group who just went to AA meetings, that's the 12-step AA program, and one group that just listened to a hemisync tape or listened to these low-frequency sounds 20 times, 15 minutes each. That's all they did. Turns out that the group that went to AA had 20% success rate with alcoholism. The group that listened to the tape 20 times, 15-minute tape 20 times, had an 80% success rate. Does the sounds work? I think so.
Have you tried it with smokers?
There actually is a woman up in Vancouver, Victoria, that does work with smokers, questions about smokers, and she's had some incredible success. Part of what seems to happen with the sounds is we have the ability to detox different types of sounds and or give the frequencies of different vitamins, minerals, nutrients. This raises the question of well, if this is the case, why do we need to take vitamins? Why do we need to take minerals? Dr. Bob from yesterday talked about some vitamins our body doesn't create, while most of the others we create. I think a big key in the creation of our body's pharmacopoeia, or our body's ability to create the vitamins we need, is based on frequency. I believe that this work correlates with it. That's part of, in the database that we saw, that's part of the correlation we have with the frequencies. At this stage, I'm not completely happy with the relationship between the frequencies that we have and what would best work And as we get new information, we'll be updating the database. Everyone will get it at the same time, or everyone who has the system. So the gentleman here.
What is the sampling rate? How much time does that represent on that little voice print?
Okay, the voice print is 15 seconds long. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just going to answer the question. So the voice print, the question is how long is the recording? At this point, the recording is 15 seconds long. The sampling rate is 44.1 kilohertz. One of the things that we'll do is we calibrate every computer by playing from the tone box a 96 hertz tone and recording it into the microphone of the computer. We then have you zoom in really close and figure out exactly where that peak comes on your computer. And that way we're able to calibrate each computer precisely according to its frequency or its kind of measuring. That's a side note, but just to show that we've done our homework to get this as accurate as possible. Sir? I'm not familiar with Bob Beck's brain tuner device. Okay, sir? Okay, no, that's not a serial port. What we have is you use the computer to program the frequencies that you want the tone box to make. Okay, and that cable just uses a phone plug, simple, convenient, easy, works well, cheap. You know, we just used it for those reasons. Okay, in the back.
I take it that in your voice print you're using a 256C as a baseline, or you're using a different frequency for C or. Second question is, when you say a musical inverse, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the next octave down, a minor, or are you talking about the next octave up, or like fifth or sixth?
Okay, I'll answer both of them. The first question was, are we using a 256C? Well, this gets into another reason why the company is called Oneness. Turns out I was doing the research, and in this, writing the program, I had to go in and figure out exactly where every frequency started, stopped, when the octaves should be, all that stuff. I started off of using the planets from Kepler stuff, and all this musical stuff seems to come from the ratios of the planets. It's just really incredible how this all works out. And when I did all the math, I found out that using A at 440 puts the boundary between, remember we had B and C in that circle right next to each other. Okay, that's the alpha omega point. That's the beginning of the note of C. Well, I found it to be a frequency of like 255.5 or some strange number that was really close to 256. Now, it just sort of came to me, and I think this is right, that God would play a game like this. The alpha omega point, 1, and having the alpha omega point, that spot where you kind of go in an octave to the next octave, that spot where you go around the spiral and you're at the next level, would God make that frequency a frequency of 1? Oneness? I think he might have. So that's part of what that goes. So to answer your question with the frequencies, we actually start the note of C in this software at a note of 256, or at a frequency of 256. We then go all the way around the circle to the end. I'm almost at the end. The second part of that question, what was the second part one more time? Okay, the inverse is the tritone. Yeah, I went through that in the first part. The inverse is the tritone, or if you list out all the notes of the keyboard, A sharp, B, kind of counting them out. The inverse is the one that's on the opposite side of the circle. If you can bring up the computer, I'll just give another. Okay, it lies when you put the frequencies in a circle. It's the one that's 180 degrees from the frequency that you want. In this case, it's easiest to show off the circle. It's a tritone. Okay. I've only got a little bit of time left, probably a few questions. Yes, sir?
Have you done any studies with people who have epilepsy?
Actually, okay, the question is, have I done any studies with epilepsy? Turns out epilepsy is one of the things that I want to do some research with because I think we're going to be incredibly effective with it. The problem is that the sounds can cause epileptic fits. So to this stage, I actually recommend not using the sounds with epileptics unless you're a doctor in a situation where you're prepared to deal with the seizures that may result. Mind you, though, I believe that we're going to have incredible success with epileptics once we get some time to do some research into it, because the sounds definitely affect them and kind of help with the brain communication and all this. So it's going to be just great. But in general, I try to stay away from it now because I'm not prepared to deal with what can happen. Okay, sir?
How about Alzheimer's?
Okay. Have I done, and this is kind of a general question. I'll just insert the question. Have you done any research with, and you insert whatever condition you want, Alzheimer's, epileptics, heart conditions, anything you want. What we have is we've got some research in different pieces of it. In general, when it gets down to the bottom line, all we do, or what we can do, is just ignore whatever the condition is. We just look at the voice and look at the frequencies and the energy pattern of the person. We rebalance that, and they end up having fewer conditions or fewer problems, and sometimes just amazing results with the conditions. But we're more concerned in ways in thinking about this on the frequency and balancing it than we are on this condition or that condition. And no, we don't have a lot of research on this. There's been some research done on different pieces. I can't go into each question that might come up with that. But it's coming. We're working on it. That's part of the Oneness Network and people who use the software to try to bring this all together. Finally, I do want to repeat, no, we don't have a cure for any stuff. No, we don't diagnose anything. We just have a way that seems to work for helping balance people out. Okay.
Have you done any work with people who have metaphysical gifts, such as precognition and that kind of thing, and people who are hearing from other dimensions? What is the range of your software, and is there a difference in these people that you've seen in your life?
Okay. Have I done, again, the question is, have I done research with people with metaphysical gifts? No, not yet. I mean, that's, just haven't.
Do you think your software range would detect?
Do you think we would detect something? We may. Actually, I think we probably would detect differences, but it's research to be done. Again, all we need is the first million, and we can get going. Okay, gentlemen?
What's the cost of the software? Does it come with the tone device?
Yes, the software is currently only $9.99 with the training package, with the tone device, with the cable, and a workbook that's coming out very soon. Unfortunately, once we start really getting going with this, we're going to have to raise the price. At this stage, we're really giving away the software for what it's capable of doing. And it's just, we want to get going, and I want to get it to the people that kind of believe in us here at the beginning before we really know a lot about this. But yeah, so currently it's $9.99. The price will be going up. Okay, yeah, the upgrades and prices of those will vary. We'll try to keep it fair, reasonable, and within reason of most people. My goal is to get this out to people. My goal is to get research, feedback, get people working with this. This can help people. I'm not in it for the money, but I want money, and I think I deserve to make a lot of money doing this. But it's just, this is an incredible, incredible piece, and we really need to get out there with it. And so I really, really hope that that works and that helps.
Can you direct clients to people who get this?
We sometimes can, but we're setting up those types of systems, and we'll definitely have loops or hoops that the practitioners that take this training and take the software need to go through in order to receive the client referrals. But we will be doing that client referral stuff. Okay. Well, with that, I think it's probably time for me to kind of close up. I want to thank you all for your time today. And again, anyone who sees the video or wants to contact us can contact us at 800-734-3588. That's 1-800-734-3588. If you're calling internationally, you can call one of a couple numbers, 425-747-8611 or 206-920-0206. Email is currently Dan Kunkel. Well, actually, we'll just change it to, it's currently soundtherapy at oneness-inc.com. So great. Again, thank you all for listening to me today, and have a great time. And I wish us all the best and luck in getting this going and figured out for everyone's sake. Meant for me to stop, right? I need you to do me a favor and put the screen back up.
Yeah, no, we let you go another 5 or 6 years.
Thanks. Okay. Okay, those are CDs that are separate. They don't really relate to the program, but what they're of Tibetan bells, voices, stuff. What they found, or what the woman who did it found, was that it was a great way of anyone kind of getting a bunch of frequencies to help balance them.
Do you take cards?
We do.
Is your booth out here?
We actually don't have a booth, but we do. Let's see, we're set.
Are you going to be here all the rest of the conference?
Well, in and out, but yes.
Could I ask you to steer
Oh.
all of the excitedly